And hello good people of the internet, it is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is Adventures in Moo. This episode I want to talk a bit about how my worldview or magical view or creativity and all of those things changed after I became a parent. Someone left a comment earlier today, asked me about this question about how my kind of magical outlook has changed and my beliefs in general have changed since becoming a parent. And I go, well, that's a good question. I'll do a video about it. I'm not sure I really know, but I definitely have changed. One thing that came very clear to me about having a kid is that some of my old kind of ritualistic habits around my depression and how I dealt with low moods and stuff like that dramatically changed. In that there was always a kind of get out clause that I had, that no matter what happened, no matter how bad it got, I could jump out. You know, I could end it all and I'd be away from it. And while that's pretty dark and definitely not the best way to approach any of your life's problems or anything like that, there was always kind of sitting in the back of my mind that was an option, that there was always an option to get out of it. And since having a kid, that option's gone. It's just like, it's not on the table anymore. It's just not a thing that I can allow myself to even fantasize about. Not fantasize about is the wrong word, because that sounds like if in a kind of a idoliction towards it, if that's the kind of thing where you kind of, think it's kind of fancy in a non, I suppose, non-good sense, not in a non-wanting, in a non, I don't know what I'm saying, fancy in a non-good sense. And so it's just that disappeared very quick. And anytime the first year of me having the kid was very hard for me for a number of reasons. I spoke about it before, but it was in many ways, one of the hardest years of my life. Not just because of having a baby, but it's kind of having a life and then this thing in the middle of it, just makes everything else harder. It's not that having a baby is hard, it's just doing everything around what you would normally do while looking after a baby. It makes cooking dinner a harder experience or whatever. People who have kids know what I'm on about. And so that just kind of disappeared, and there was no kind of, I had to find a new way of kind of coping with things or with dealing with things that didn't involve this kind of get out clause. Ultimately, that's a good thing, because it means that you have to kind of look at the world in a different way, rather than kind of thinking that I don't have to face up to these things, that ultimately I can just run away. And when you take away the kind of thing of I can run away, then you have to face up to them, or at least augment them or change them, or in some way interact with them or push against them or fight against them to try and change it, or equally to accept the things you can't change. And that was one of the things that kind of was highlighted for me. It's a very kind of odd outlook thing to have changed. It's very hard to explain without kind of sounding quite dark on one hand, or feeling sorry for myself, or all of these things. But what did happen then when the lockdown came in, and I think it's part of the same kind of structure, was that I realised that I had a choice in all of this. I had a choice to be negative, give in to the control, the fear, all of those things, give in to the hysteria, the world is a terrible place, that humans are shit, all of these things that I probably would have wallowed in, or kind of hung around with, these like old friends, these old ideas, these kind of in some way comforting thoughts, even though they're extremely negative. They're like a comforting blanket. And there was a part of me that was kind of using these things, not necessarily just as excuses, but as reasons. If I can notice the difference in why things didn't have to work out, or life was, the kind of the blame game, the victim thing. And I did an awful lot of work around victim playing and all that, including the therapy and all of these things I've talked loads about before on the channel. But when it came to the lockdown, when it came to the kind of thing, it was very much obvious that I have a choice. You have a choice to fall apart here and give in to the dark, or you can start being positive about it and being grateful and appreciative, and look at the good things in life rather than constantly looking at the negative things. And I chose to do the positive thing, and it's been unbelievably different. Now, when I say the positive thing, I've made this point before, I'm not saying that it's looking at the world and pretending that it's okay, and pretending that everything's perfect and that it's all amazing and roses and flowers and light and oh God loves us and isn't everything brilliant. It's realizing the world is the way it is, but being okay with it, accepting it, and instead of kind of only seeing the negative stuff, concentrating, focusing on and pointing at the good stuff, because there's a hell of a lot of good stuff. But we have a tendency, well, I have a tendency, had a tendency to only ever look at the bad stuff for numerous reasons. In that it's easy to do. It seems to be my default setting. It seems to be mostly our default setting from what I can see from most people, but not all people. It's much easier to view the world negatively, in your life negatively, in situations and events, than it is to be positive about them. Well, at least it is for me, in that it takes a concerted effort to remain positive in the face of these type of things. And that's, again, not saying that it's a false positivity. It's like the reality transferring thing of what's the advantage here. And it's another way of saying it could be much worse, but it's pointing at the positive rather than it's at the negative. Whereas if you're in a situation that says, well, it could be much worse, you go, well, it could, but that doesn't help me. But if you're in a situation that goes, well, what's at least good about the situation? You know, what are the advantages in it? What are the positives within this kind of bad situation? And it's a very different outlook, even though it is kind of pointing at the same type of idea. So that the main thing about my outlook about having a kid is this realizing that how much of a choice I bring to the world in how I view it, in seeing its beauty or not seeing its beauty, in seeing the advantage or not seeing the advantages, in knowing that things, while things could be much worse, things can be really an awful lot better just by me deciding they are, and that me kind of being less critical of myself, of the world, of other people, just allowing to, it's that new age hippie stuff that been, people have been telling us for ages, but there's definitely a lot into it now. There's an awful lot of terrible hippie new age stuff that doesn't help at all. Victim blaming, spiritual bypassing, all of those type of things. And they're very close, and you have to be very careful with these things. But other than that, I don't think there's been much change in my magical kind of outlook or my creativity. I suppose the main thing that you notice when you have a baby is that you realize that everyone was once a baby. And that gives you a kind of a tolerance of people that I've never had before, in that you realize that no matter who they are, they were once in the mother's arms. Well, we hope, circumstances don't always allow, that. But for the most part, they were a baby, looked after by mother and father, had, loads of little fun games, little kind of outlooks. And even looking at my wee man, he's just so full of joy and he's so happy, and he's just, the simple things make him happy, little toys, playing with himself, all these little kind of wonderful little things. And then now over the next couple of years, you're going to have to go, well, life's a bit like this. And, we kind of then enforce all of this society stuff, and mostly for his, there's a lot of it for his protection and to enable him to go out into the world and successfully navigate it and stuff like that. But I do feel that we take this lovely little innocent thing and destroy it in order for it to survive. And that's horrible when to realise that. And it's not I was going to say it's unavoidable. We can definitely lessen the damage of that, and try not. I was instilled, I suppose, with an awful lot of fear and that kind of worry and stuff like that I definitely didn't need to do, but it's ingrained in who I am now, and that it's something I have to work on. So those type of things. I'm not sure there's anything else. I'm sure since I turned the video off, I'll have realised some other stuff, but they're just the ones that came to mind when I started blabbling about what was going on. Definitely a wonderful experience, very hard experience. It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And, it's life-changing. It's the thing I kind of, no matter what anyone says to you before you have a baby, no matter what anyone kind of prepares you, no matter what stories you hear, and people do try to tell you an awful lot of horror stories. It's very odd. When we were pregnant, it was like people, 9 months of people telling us, their horror stories. But I think it's trying to prepare you for this kind of a thing. But there's no words, nothing can ever prepare you, because all of the challenges and all of the joys and all of the love and the happiness and the positivity and, all the bits that take so much out of you are all different than what you think they are. And it's just, you have to just go through it, experientially. There's just no way of preparing. And there's no way that anyone could have prepared me, even though I know the story. The very first time I locked eyes with the baby, there's no one can prepare you for that, because it's a feeling you will never have before. At least I didn't. And all those tiny little things like that just, My sister told me, and I don't know where she got it from, she said that having a baby is like having your heart now on the outside. I think that's kind of a great way of explaining it. So that's it. It's very warm here today. I'm sweating. I have to close the windows when I do this, so it makes it extra warm. And but no, nothing else going on. It's good. I'm working well. And getting a good headway into the Unreal Engine, setting up all the pre-stuff for the comic. I have it all worked out. I know I keep saying this, I have it all worked out, but it's like we're getting closer and closer and closer and closer. It'll be very soon. Well, it'll be very soon. It'll be starting on it. It might be a while until you get to read it. But the Patreon people will certainly see an awful lot of it before the general public. So there's an advertisement for my Patreon. So, good people of the internet, my hair is wet. It's that warm. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, and may all of our best days be ahead. Be well.